Hello, everyone. First of all, we would like to thank everyone for being here in our sessions today, especially, it's International Label Today. And my name is Irene, and I will be the moderator of the sessions. And just to give you a very short introduction, Frontier Trade is created as a trial for the purpose of transferring and sharing practical knowledge, insights, and experience for the startups and entrepreneurs around the world. And we plan to host this event once in every 2 weeks and to structure each sessions into two different parts. Like Hajime just mentioned, that the first 40 minutes will be freely broadcast to you guys, and the later one we just do the sessions on the Zoom. For all the audience out there, please feel free to watch and let us know any of your comments, your question and suggestions for us in the Q&A or the chat sessions. I'll go ahead with our panelists today. I think we are having a great combination of experienced tech entrepreneurships, professionals, and in various fields. And today, as the first topic, we will be talking about how the startups opportunities can bloom in the post-COVID era. As we all may know that many of industries and business sectors are being seriously damaged or affected, or maybe some in the less dramatic scenarios is they are all going through a big change and all on a fundamental levels. But at the same time, there are still many other entrepreneurs who think and to start exploring the challenges and with new opportunities. So there are some of the questions that being asked so frequently by different people around the world, like which business industry are particularly interesting for us to focus or to study on at the moment, or how the way people work can be changed from now on, and also what are the potential changes for business and for us that should be aware of that can be happen for the life after the COVID. So before getting to the main topic, can the panelists get a little introductions about yourself and maybe share about your work and experience that you want the audience to know? Can we start with Cass first?
All right. Hi everyone. I'm Kazun. Please call me Obalat. I'm now the advisor for the startups. I'm mentoring the many entrepreneurs. So for now, their market cap is the 5 billion US dollar. For the 5 years my mentoring. So I have a one question. Do you use emoji? How many use emoji? So pre-chat? So nobody? Yeah, thanks. I developed the emoji in the 1999. Yeah. It was the first mobile platform in Japan. For now the emoji the universal language. I think that there are so many opportunity that for now the COVID changed everything. It means uh, there is a great opportunity for you. I would like to give my expertise for you. Thank you for the uh, give me such a good opportunity. That is the Hotta-san. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, about Danny, a little
Hi
introductions
everyone.
about yourself.
Thank you. Thanks, Irene. Hello everyone. I'm Danny. I currently run a startup, Nexus Frontier Tech. But deep down on me, I have been a serial entrepreneur for the last 20 years. Created quite a lot of failed startups. But luckily, there were a few startups that were successful enough that allowed me to actually exit. Currently, my passion is, of course, running the startup, but at the same time, I've been coaching and mentoring quite a number of startups especially from Side Business School, University of Oxford, where I actually hold a position to train and to teach the startup over there, especially those startups that venture from the universities. I also occasionally help with different startup accelerators like Microsoft Accelerator, Startup Bootcamp, Pitch at Palace, and so on and so forth. So it's a passion for me to actually work with the founders, as it gives me a refreshment being a founder and as well as standing from a different point of views. Especially, it's been an interesting journey with Hajime since 5 years ago that we both run a startup as well as investing and incubating different startups in Southeast Asia.
Okay, let's move on to Hajime.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Hajime, and actually, I was a little surprised that my Facebook friends, they went analyzing my Facebook friends. I have more Vietnamese than Japanese, which is quite weird. I'm a Japanese guy. I originally learned the neural network, the computer science, and I also received a PhD. Actually, one of my junior here is attending, yeah, in the same laboratory with us. And since then, I mean, myself is doing 3, 4, 5 companies. I don't remember so well. And yeah, after 2 startups in Japan, both are acquired by the big corporates. I came over to Singapore, and then since then, I'm pretty familiar with the Southeast Asia, including Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, and so on. And I'm quite a tech guy, so I believe that both Danny is pretty business guy, and Kaz is quite a hybrid. I know that Kaz is also originally studying the AI and then jump onto the business side. Then myself is quite fully on a tech side. So I believe that this combination would bring a lot of chemistry onto the discussion. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending.
Okay, Hajime, maybe you can briefly make a little introduce about Frontier Strait and the sessions and the expectations you have
Yeah.
for the our sessions.
Yes. I will do it. Oops. Sorry, I should be well prepared. Okay, so I call this company's name Frontier Strait, and this is the regular, basically twice a month session, talking about a lot of principles, which is very particularly delivered to the startup entrepreneurs and some of who is aspiring for the new like technical innovations. And then like one very the why I wanted to do it is actually Obara-san Kaz has already been started almost a similar concept in Japan. I think it's been 2 years, which talks about the principle of business, which is originally a book. And a book is just a principle, but he also has an online community which had a lot of real insight from the industry, and they share a lot of knowledge and how this company succeeded in which way, kind of contents. And it's quite luxury of knowledges, which is really practically applied to my own interest. So that is why I wanted to start almost a similar thing, but of course it is not my copyright, so like I wanted to invite Obara-san as well, sharing all of those knowledges. And then of course some are very Japan specific, but a lot of things are of course is quite universal in the global markets. And what we are doing is the twice a month 2 hours live remote sessions like this. And I also want to have the community-driven Q&A platform. We are going to send the LinkedIn group, the secret group. And also sometimes we are welcoming a lot of guest speakers from a top industry, for example, maybe someone from the Singapore government or someone Series C above entrepreneurs. Maybe from Southeast Asia, but maybe from Japan. So we are planning a lot of those things. And then basically it's on the monthly subscription basis, but I also want to make quite a lot of things for free. So like we decided that the first 40 minutes, which is more of the intro and the overview kind of things, post it on the YouTube, but the latter content to be more for exclusively for the members. And then like the following topics will be the new business opportunities around the AI or deep tech, VR, IoT. So like basically we're talking about the specific technologies, but like we are more talking about a business instead of only the technology. So like, for example, in the AI, a lot of people talk about what is the AI, like how to use the AI kind of things, but we are more talking about after AI, the potential of the AI is unlocked and what's going to happen and what is the sweet spot for the startups entrepreneurs to really aim at, or like what is the strategy to make this defensibility. Defensibility stands for like how to sustainably grow the business despite a lot of competitors coming in, right? So like we're talking about those business strategies. And then another thing is 23 types to build a sustainable profitability, or like what is like the OMO has already started, but what is going to be the next opportunity beyond the OMO, or we are going to talk about the actual sweet spot in the fintech industry or the reality of a KPI management in the startup. So like we are more practical and we are talking a lot about the insider insights within the exclusive membership community, so that we can be more casually talk about the reality rather than being too much politically correct answering. So this is the aim of this community. And then the next event, which is tentatives, we are going to announce to the emails that we have sent to you guys, which is the May 22 and how can startups build their defensibility with the power of AI. And this is not about only for the AI startups, but for startups to employ the AI technologies to make a better defensibility. And how to do it, there is a framework. So like we are gonna share, of course, mostly the sweetest information on the letter session in the next time. So this is the next event. Please pay attention to those things. All right, so that is pretty much about the community. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. I think let's just move on to the main topic of today's discussion. And I think to move forward, I like to ask, like, what are your general views on the impact of the COVID-19 to the business and to the tech business in particular around the world? Can you share with the audience? Maybe we start with Danny.
Well, I think it's not a question whether is there impact or not. Is actually what is the impact that we are questioning ourselves. I rather quite like the situation minus the virus issue. Of course, I do not like to see we suffer from the healthcare issues. But before this crisis came in, or I should say that in every recession in the last 20 years, I've always enjoyed how the industries were being disrupted. And let me bring it to the last 1 year of situation. Many people were talking about when is the recession going to come? When is the market going to crash? And these were the uncertainties that businesses don't like, startups don't like, because you cannot have a clear direction of what to do, what to prepare, what to plan. And now that we are in this situation, the direction is clear. It is being disrupted. Things are becoming a lot clearer. We have only one way to go, which is to change how we do business, how we do things. And every time when we have this type of situation, it's the best opportunity. And the thing about, right now we're actually framing ourselves in a startup perception is, what is the difference between startups and corporations, large corporation? There's only one big difference, which is the speed. In average, 1 year in startup life is equivalent to probably about 5 years in the corporate life. And during this type of situation, is the best ever opportunity for any startup to do things in 5 times faster, to disrupt things that no one has ever seen before, so that we can actually react a lot faster. So that's basically my view in this situation. Of course, again, I'd like to reiterate that the healthcare issues is nobody likes to see, but things are becoming a lot clearer. We know where we are going. We have a much bigger probability of choosing a path to do and to prepare. On to the next.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you guys agree with Danny? Hajime?
Oh, okay. I am the guy. Okay. Yeah. Definitely, I agree that actually, one thing I did after the COVID lockdown started is to talk to, I think more than 20 startups, and like just to catch up, like how are you guys doing? And one lucky guys is actually on the e-commerce or the like delivery guys, because it is a obviously this is growing without much of the effort. So like the traction is suddenly coming up, right? So like they don't have much of the issues, but most of them have damaged. And then the moderate damage will be on the B2B side, because the B2B business is slightly okay in terms of the like economic impact. But the key thing is the decision making process, because like everybody were too used to meeting up with a lot of bosses and like all the decision making rooms, and then like they are physically making decisions. But now like they don't have this kind of a system, and especially the senior people are not very used to doing the physical meet, like the online meeting to make a decision. So like they started to um, reorganize the decision making flow first before
Yeah.
doing any decision making. So that would like postpone a lot of so much of the problems. So like basically those with a small budget, like for example the service or the SaaS model, like just only charging like $100 or something, it's very easy to go. Yeah, but for those like for selling enterprise services like $100,000 above, then like usually most of those things are stopping. So this is one interesting uh, I mean, a place. But I think it is just a matter of time, right? Because after the decision making flow is established and everything is restarting, so like don't have a much of a concern. The worst cases would be someone who are related to restaurant is almost like zero. Like for example, comparing with like a February, the March and April is like 70% revenue decrease. That means like only 30% maintained or even less than that. So there is a worst case. And for those, I have honestly see a lot of guys who are creatively thinking about a new idea. For example, one restaurant recommendation app guy who are from Vietnam, they're switching over the strategy to the food delivery right now. But the very good thing is that, like in case the company is very big, then it's pretty difficult to change this kind of like operation so drastically. But for entrepreneurs, they can maybe even change the people and drastically changing the business model, the app interface to quickly move to the next chances. And some of them are doing pretty well. And then the other case is the very interesting trends I have observed is for example, the physical business people like English, uh, English school in Vietnam. They are like obviously like they have a physical class and they are doing the online, but once like the COVID thing started, like people don't come to the school, then they wanted to do the online school, but like they don't have any of the IT knowledge on how to do those things. And where actually the startup founders who are used to the IT infrastructure, they're starting to like sell a kind of a system of IT or like outsourcing or the OEM to support them to have the IT infrastructure to like for them to survive. And I believe that those cases are another way that the entrepreneurs can creatively think of. And yeah, so like basically what happened is that around March, almost all the entrepreneurs are almost panicked and they're just like feeling a bit depressed. But April, I have been observing a lot of the positive cases where people are starting to be creatively thinking about a new business opportunities and um, trying to catch up with the new era. So that is a very happy thing that I'm seeing.
Okay, how about Cass? I'm very curious to know what do you think about, what is the impact that the business and tech business are having right now, and do you agree with the insights that Danny and Hajime has shared? And perhaps share
Yeah,
with us,
so the
some real cases in your network that show that how creative people are in coping with the COVID-19.
yeah, so the I would like to bring the three keywords so for the after COVID the new innovation. The one is a hybrid normal. So the Cottrell, the world famous marketing scientist, that say the new normal. So the COVID disrupted the all norm the about the what is the real world, the what is the digital procedure. So for now we have to the work remotely, the live the remotely. So everything is now changing the new normal. So but after COVID-19, the legacy company has a gravity to the getting back to their old normal business. So the entrepreneur would be the stick to the hybrid normal to the make the new norm for the new business. So and especially I think the new frontier is a real as a service. So for now, we are the caught by the heavy burden the by the cost of the real. So as Hajime said, the restaurants, the hotel, the real estate business, has a heavy cost because they have a fixed cost to the sustain the real. So the for now those business think about to the extend their business from the just real business to the online business. So they have to mix their business the among the offline business and online business. So and they want to their service to the exchange the fixed cost to the flexible cost. So that I think the real as a business, real as a service is a very hot spot in next to 10 years. And the second, so um, the new geopolitics is now emerging. So 10 years ago, we caught by the SARS. So and at the timing of the SARS, the government take a leadership to the control the COVID. But for now, so government cannot take the strong leaderships against the COVID. For now, the government and civic tech or platformer like a Google, like a Facebook, like a Alibaba, take a collaboration against the COVID. I think that it's new geopolitics and a new business world. So we are now the face with a great opportunity to how to integrate the government and the civic tech, or cooperation. And the third, I think true innovation comes from the disaster. So do you know how do you make the good wine? Good wine always comes from the poor lands, the under the bad weathers. So for example, Google took place after the Lehman shock. So the Newton, the find the gravity, after the past. So the true innovations that comes from the normal days, that comes from the disasters. Why? The innovation comes from the not outside. The true innovation comes from the inside yourself. So it's great time to dig your inside, not outside. Yeah, so in usual day, you just a copy from the Silicon Valley's business, you just a copy from the Chinese business. Yeah, you can become rich, but it's not true innovation. The true innovation comes from the your side. So I think it's great time dig our inside. Yeah, that's my three words from the
Wow, wonderful.
COVID-19.
So I think we can all agree at some level that the pandemic, besides all the negative impacts, it really helps to, also reveals a lot of opportunities for the true innovations to bloom. So how about, what do you think about how the pandemic really is changing the way people work and interact with each other? So, and do you think it's a bad, is it a good, or is just something inevitable for everyone? Um, Hajime, you can have some comment on this.
Yeah, the way we work is actually a pretty interesting topic to, I think, three of us, because, like we are super used to the remote recovery from a long time ago. So like actually my life is quite optimized with the remote working, but like later we are gonna share the bit of framework, but I am here sharing some of the examples instead of talking more about a structured way. I think that for engineers actually most of the technologies are already um, have been assumed the remote work, right? So for example, GitHub, Slack, the integration of a lot of tools, and like the SaaS project management tool, all of those things are actually well prepared for the remote work, and we don't have much of the barrier. But the key thing is that for senior people, like we don't have a much of a problem, but the junior people, like we need to ensure it is a little bit scary on whether like those guys are like really working or actually doing a bit of housework and like working only 4 hours. Kind of worried, to be honest, right? So like my company had a kind of rule where like senior have more flexibility, whereas the junior should basically come over to the office, and like which was all broken now. And like we are trying to do a lot of culture making, for example, like having the very explicit daily stand up with a Zoom, or we are explicitly have PM talk to all the members one by one, at least once a day. So it's a more of the discipline implementing approach to overcome those problems, juniors. And that is another point. And I believe that actually this is a bit surprising fact to me, but a lot of people are getting more and more willing to take the remote uh, sales conversations. I mean, the client side is open more than before, and like they are happy to talk with us like casually 30 minutes kind of thing. So which is a very good thing. So the salespeople were not very much affected with the work style, and actually they are even saving a lot of the MRT time. For example, in Japan, usually it takes like 30 minutes to 45 minutes going to the office A to the the next company by maybe the taxi or train, but most of those times are cut off, right? So it's getting even more efficient. However, again, the key problem is external meeting is totally fine, but the internal meeting takes a lot of time to make a decision. So like a lot of conversations happen, not so much of the decision making happen. So that is another problem, but the work style wise, it's not that difficult. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, it's always very interesting for me as my objective from the beginning has always been building a very, very international company. So we have more than 20 over nationalities in about 7 or 8 locations. So yes, it hasn't really affected so much, and all the things, all the reasons and effect I've heard from Hajime. But I think one key things I should say there are 2 points. One is basically external dealing, and one is basically internal dealings. And to the external dealings, yes, we now have more times, especially in Europe. We have more times to speak to clients or associates or partners on the phone. People are more willing to speak to you, like a staff of mine, a colleague of mine, where they were struggling to get an appointment with Morgan Stanley, but all of a sudden, they were able to speak for more than a couple of hours on the phone with the executives from those big companies. So those are the good things externally. Internally, like Hajime said, yes, it is a struggle. The senior knows how to work, but the junior always are having issues. But I think with time overcomes, the junior are starting to get to learn how to do this thing. Now, my second big point is rather, I feel the most important things is we all know that, yes, this is a new way of life, new way of doing things. Actually, personal relationship with each other is rather improved compared to before the lockdown. And that created the good thing and the bad thing as well. The bad thing is when you accidentally, intentionally or unintentionally offended someone, it's a lot harder to remedy the relationship, because you can no longer go to that person in front of him or her and say, sorry, can we work this out? Because right now people can shut you down. You just don't want to pick up the phone. People cannot receive you in person anymore. And that again works externally and internally. Externally, your opportunity comes easier, but it goes easier as well. So we actually spend quite a lot of time to talk about, how should we begin to engage the client, the partnerships? What can we say? We need to plan in a much better way. How to begin, what's the objective, what's the closing, and what's next. Internally is the same as well. Daily stand up, all these things rather improve the relationship. I usually didn't go into my office in the past. I usually don't like to speak to people for more than 10 minutes. I just don't have the patience. But now I just sit in the daily stand up for 30 minutes, sometimes, still not every day. And again, it improved the personal relationship, but it also created another problem where sometimes you may offend somebody. It's just a lot more difficult to remedy that relationship, because it's easier to come and it's easier to go as well. And that is the new way of how I am thinking a lot of. When you speak to people on the phone, you can no longer, like in the past, to say, hi, how are you doing? And then bye-bye, we can wait for when we meet. It's no longer the case. Every phone has a very clear objective and the action plan for the next. So yeah, that's my take in the new way of working or life.
Yeah, thanks. The time is running, actually. So let's take up one question, which is about a VC mentality. And actually, I have prepared one slide, which is kept for the next close session. But I can briefly so the question is like, how has the VC mentality changed because of the COVID-19? And it's very clear. I have seen a lot of cases where people are, you know, especially the later stage funds are a bit reluctant to invest the money for now. So it's a more of the decision making process. So very how to say, quick stories. It's almost a verbally committed, right? Then usually the venture capital or the investors prefer to visit the office physically, especially for those like who are doing a Series B, C above, right? And then like they wanted to see the office in person, like a scene the CEO and the management board in person to feel the atmosphere before making any decision. And now the COVID things happened, all the lockdown. So especially for the developing countries, including like Vietnam or like Malaysia, like they are physically locked down and the investors cannot come in. Then like their mentality is still like they want to wait until the real visit. So that means like it's a dragged for 3, 4, 5 months, right? For sure, physically. Then like so far the regulation is not changed at all. So that is the biggest thing that I'm seeing. So and then obviously a lot of seed investors are trying to exploit the startups with a very low valuation. So like people are feeling like, you know, I have been in the startup industry for more than 10 years, actually, 15 years. And I've seen almost exactly the same thing back in 2008 and 9, which is, you know, for investors to try to exploit the shares as much as possible with the lowest valuation, because not so many of the competitor, I mean, competing seed investors there. So from those investors, they feel like now is a chance for them to buy a high quality startup, because you know entrepreneurs trying hard in this crisis period should be the real guy, right? So like a super great guy, right? So they're trying to exploit a lot of shares from um, the great founders. And I personally like this kind of culture, but it is always the market is always a supply and a demand. So like yeah, it is unfortunately the fate, but I believe that a lot of seed investors or the angel investors prefer to do a very very like sweet deal as well. So not too bad, but valuation wise it is a way
Yeah.
smaller than it used to be half a year ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What
So,
I
but
think.
I can add one advice for this question. So I think that you have another option for the investment. So this is the legacy company. Because the many legacy company cannot escape from the digital transformation. So the COVID accelerate to change their own business for the online. So there is the reason to hurry up their digital
Yes,
transformation. So
yes.
they are looking for the new acquisition for
Yeah.
the startups. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, just very quickly in Europe, we do see two things very very normally in under this situation. One is, of course, new deals are very very rare because the VC are busy trying to buy up cheap assets, building out their existing portfolios in a very cheap price, and also invest very very few in a very cheap price. Now the second thing is, it's a very interesting thing that we do see a lot of VCs are actually closing more and more funds. I've seen at least 4 to 5 VC close further funds, fund 3, fund 4, after 1 month after the lockdown. So what does it mean? This means that the power or the weapon power of those VC are actually getting stronger because their LPs are actually believing in them to get good deals and also to help those good that, like Opera just explained, those good ones that can actually attack during this time. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, I think those are all great insights, and I personally think that the views being shared by you all are very valuable for all of us to think about at this moment, but with a little different perspective from what the news usually talking about. Um, I think we're about to finish the first 40-minute sessions for the public. And in the following session, we will be forming the points in a more structured framework and on a more strategic level. And the speakers will continue to share the real examples and real cases of how people can objectively categorize what or how to do both internally in their business team and how they do business with external people. And also as a hint for a separate note, as an entrepreneur, and we should not just take a short-term chance to cope with the situation, but also trying to connect to the company's long-term goal and strength, and that's how we call it a defensibility.